Welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, you're listening to HealthTech Talk, broadcasting from iHeartRadio Studios, 640 WGST, and streaming worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. My name is Ben Chodor, and I'm excited about my next guest for a couple reasons. One is I'm a huge fan of her company, Verizon. Two, I know her pretty well, and she's an incredible businesswoman. I have a lot of respect for her. Her name is Nancy Green. She is the global lead for healthcare, Verizon Enterprise Solutions. Her company is obviously Verizon, and she's just incredible. Nancy, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Ben. I'm good. Boy, I love that introduction.
Well, no, it's true.
Thank you.
I've met a lot of people in the space. You just seem to get it. You don't get overly excited about hype. You're very real, and you're totally in the know. And Verizon, even at its huge size, was one of the first major organizations that really said, all right, this whole digital health space is for real. And that's kind of cool for me. And I just wanted to tell our audience in general, what does the global lead of healthcare at Verizon do, and why is healthcare important to Verizon?
That's actually a great question. I came in 6 years ago at the head of the company. Lowell McAdams, our CEO. It's very close to his heart. We're one of the largest insured employers, and for him, healthcare is a big thing to make sure that his own employees are taken care of, and how could we solve some really big problems. And so about 6 years ago, they came in and said, we're really going to focus on not just healthcare, there's a couple other verticals, but they brought us in from the industry. So there's 7 of us that were brought in to lead, to your point, this huge company, the size and scope and scale that Verizon has of all of these different companies. It's just wireless. It's our network side, our wireline, our Fios, our cloud, our security. How do we make all of these things work to make a difference in healthcare? And that's where I've been driving towards the last couple of years, which we've worked together over the last couple of years on, is how do we take this huge end of technology, innovation, and acceleration to make some changes. So what I do, I work with the different organizations within Verizon to help them. We look at companies that we can partner with, that we can invest in. I do a lot of, as you know, a lot of outward-facing work with our clients directly, building strategic partnerships both on the clinical side. Verizon is not clinical whatsoever. And so we really have focused and partnered with some very good clinical organizations to help us in use case work and workflow optimizations and what technologies could help them. Kind of the application layer is what we call it. The overall theme that Verizon has within healthcare is this one, what I call, and seems to resonate, is this one of enablement. So how can we enable the industry? Our practice is across several subsegments. So it's not only the traditional provider space, but it's the payer space, the pharma, life sciences,
right,
the device manufacturers, and then the other guys who support that, the Quest Diagnostic people and the home health organizations and the delivery world around it and the support networks of that. So as you look at that, it's global, and it's really from all different angles. There's lots of great opportunities. So
it's not, in theory, you think it's not just about apps, right, or
no,
the devices.
No.
It's about the connectivity.
Yeah, so and the connectivity matters. We call it the magic is inside.
Right.
It's if you build an app, which there's lots of apps that are really great. We call that the application layer.
Right.
And that's kind of the sexy side of life, and we work with a lot of them. But if that app doesn't work well, or it fails, or there's some security bugs in it or malware in it, that really affects the patient experience, the customer experience, or the clinical experience. If you're doing an outward-facing app or an inward-facing optimization, workflow optimization app, it really makes a difference. So we worked with our partners and potential clients on creating the best customer experience you could possibly have.
Well, I'm gonna guess. So if I was building a technology, and obviously healthcare, security is really important. Not just HIPAA, but just security in general is extremely important. There's no better place to partner with than Verizon. You own the network. You guys built it. Is that sort of like the part of it, the ideal partnership, because you guys can add a layer wrapped around everything that a lot of other organizations can't?
Well, part of it, and I think the second layer is our security services that integrate into everything that we do. So that's the authentication of who is using it, so who's activating it, who's logging in, is it Nancy Green, is it, can we authenticate her whether I'm logging into an app or looking at data? And so that authentication layer is what we've even extended that all the way down into e-prescribing on a mobile. So physicians can e-prescribe even up to schedule drugs on some of our applications because they are so inherently secure.
That's incredible. So it does.
I know, it's actually kind of fun. I was just yesterday working with a client. They're like, "You do what?" I never knew Verizon did that.
And you get to work with all different kinds of companies, right? So it's not just big companies.
I do.
And then you mentioned you guys also invest in companies. So does Verizon constantly look at what technologies are coming out in the digital health space? And is there still room? I mean, so here's a side question. Nothing really to do with Verizon. Do you think there's still room for new apps and new technologies in this space, or do you think it's overcrowded already?
No, I think there's absolutely room for innovation still. One of the things, though, that I would challenge anybody in, and this conversation I had with this customer yesterday, is a very large population health analytics, big data analytics company, and they were looking at what can we do, how can we give more information at the point of care, and what things to look at and how to look at those things. But some of the things that they were very interested in, they happened to be at one of our innovation centers in San Francisco, so we were highlighting all that we're innovating and accelerating all these new exciting companies, and the things that they were really looking for were very interesting applications of data and applications of engagement. But one of the things that this is where I think, and this is my personal opinion, but I think you see it as well, is that the integration of all these wonderful apps, of the information of where it's going to actually help get better outcomes. And that was the struggle we were working through, was how do we get all these disparate pieces of equipment from all this, information from all these different sources into one record that can help that physician when you're sitting in front of your physician, how to make a difference with your care. So that's where, to me, there's great applications, great devices, great things. Let's work towards working them all together.
And that is the holy grail. I want to remind our audience, we're talking to Nancy Green. She's with Verizon. She's in the know on the whole digital healthcare space. So I want to jump in. Everyone talks about this, right? So the mobile, right? Wearables.
Yeah.
I mean, where's Verizon sit? And can you talk a little about what Verizon is doing to enable healthcare ecosystem for mobile devices and apps and wearables?
Yeah, so that's actually three different areas for us. So when we look at mobile, that we look at virtualizing care across the mobile environment, because that's where patients like you and I want care wherever I'm at, doesn't matter what time, where exactly, and whatever device or place or location. So that's the big side of mobility. When you get into the monitoring and of health, of chronic disease, it's a whole nother area which is really kind of blowing up in this space. And then there's the wearable, which is more around, in our space, it's really more around wellness. Some of that data is in the clinical side. Actually, I had a physician yesterday tell me it's not trusted data. It's great, but I don't really care if you walk 10,000 steps. Right. It's how it moves or how it affects the information of the rest of your record. So the wearables that we look at, they're all very interesting to us, and we've worked with all the major organizations that are coming out with wearables. We have a couple things that we're innovating and accelerating through our processes to get to market. So it's an interesting space for us. We've done our own personal trials within Verizon around wearables and how does it make a difference in employee health, and it does. But I still believe, and our findings have come out, that it still needs intervention. It's not just wearing a Fitbit, for example. It's actually making sure that someone's working with you on what does that mean and what else can we do.
It's the starting point, right? It's 10,000 steps, it's 10 steps, but you got to start somewhere and get people. So, do you wear a tracker right now? Do you actually?
I do.
And
I do.
Are you religious with it?
I'm religious with wearing it, but I'm not religious with the 10,000 steps. So actually, yesterday I was disappointed in myself because I was like, I really need to do this. Okay. So it's not every day, but yes, I am, and because I know that it makes a difference. So once you become aware, I think that's everybody's goal as a human being. Is once you become aware of something, you start to watch it, and you start to watch what you eat, you start to watch what you exercise, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I absolutely watch it all.
I do. I mean, I find myself, I do cheat a little bit because if I only have 9,000 steps and I want to get to 10,000, I'm in the airport, I just walk in circles, right? Or I roll my hand over and over again, right, just to get it there. So I do cheat because...
a little bit of cheating there.
But at least I'm aware of it. We only have a couple minutes left, and I want to jump in.
Yep.
I know you've signed some partnerships, and can you give our audience an example of a couple of these partnerships?
Well, so one of the really exciting areas that Verizon's focused on is what I call the application layer, or Verizon partners. And they're not only in the mobile space, but they're in other spaces, app spaces. But some of the real exciting ones, one of the ones we use a lot, and I know you're familiar with them, is Vigo, which is a telepresence little robot. And they are probably one of the most exciting outputs from our Innovation Center because they came in. Our Innovation Center works with organizations. We don't take any IP, no charge. They come into us, and we have the smartest engineers on how to place what they need to do, make it look nice, or maybe go to market, line you up with another partner. This company came in, they were only Wi-Fi, and they weren't working well in an environment, whether it was a school or a hospital, because the Wi-Fi networks weren't built to be seamless. Put 4G in there. We streamlined how they looked. We brought some partners in for the technology side for them. And so now they're a 4G Wi-Fi-enabled system. It can go both one back or the other, depending. And it has just gone gangbusters. So that's one of them. And then we have a couple partners we do in the remote health monitoring or sensors. Yep. So companies that put sensors anywhere, and that data then becomes a viable information source for data. So one of those would be a company called HealthSense or AMC Health or Ideal Life. Those are remote patient monitoring companies that are doing really well in the clinical space because they're unobtrusive and they take blood pressure monitoring or movement monitoring, and then they can take the algorithms from that and make some really good decision-based metrics to be able to hand to them.
Awesome. Nancy, I want to thank you for your time. I know how busy you are.
You're very welcome.
I love this, and Verizon's doing incredible things, and we'll be back after these words.
On the road, find us at 6.